Well, hello there, everyone. Talk about cover letters right here. And what does it usually mean when we do write a cover letter? And it could also go by starting the sentence by saying it's like, hi, this is who I am. And you could also maybe say something like, something like that. If you're trying to get somebody's anything new or anything about just to introduce yourself and for what you were trained to do and anything like that. But a lot of times it sure seems that way that if you're going to be writing a cover letter, that start out with one specific way of how to impress somebody. And a lot of times it sure seems that way that some exciting news, or it could also maybe be about is that the reason maybe why you should hire me is just because that I got the new and latest toys and technology or something like that. Or it could also maybe be a buzz toward it. I now have a license to where I can actually teach, and or something like I had just recently been trained on how to do this, or something like that. So a lot of times it sure seems that way that whenever you do write a cover letter, a lot of times it's like that if somebody's going to be asking you to write a cover letter, then you're going to start out the sentence by saying, this is who I am, and I am available to work at this position for digital design here. And so if you were to start out at least five sentences just to kind of introduce, who you are and for what you do and all that, and it sure seems that way that writing a cover letter to me though it's just a little bit like writing a doctor's note. And like everybody would say too, that the only time maybe that you would really need to think about writing a letter like this is if you had to maybe miss the whole day of a class, or maybe if you were absent from the whole day at work or something like that, then you would just write a letter just to explain about what you had to do, and please forgive me for that or something like that. But it seems like a lot of times, cover letters can be explained in a lot of ways. But how often are we going to maybe think about that to where to explain the details about your resume further, and maybe about that something that you were working on, but then something came up, or something that maybe somebody saw about your work experience. So let's just say that if you were asked to do a favor, or like if it's a pay-in favor or something like that. So it's like, if you were originally hired to do customer service, for a company or something like that, and let's just say that they look at your cover letter and want to know too that we've seen your cover letter on here. But so almost all the time that whenever I think about my cover letter here, I'm also thinking about that whenever you do fill out an application, a lot of times that you put in a desired position that for which you would like to apply for. And so a lot of times that seems like that's usually the case, though, that whenever you do get a return about a job opportunity, then it's possible that that person is going to maybe be calling you about something else that they have opened. And that's something else may not be something that you really are have a real good feeling of doing or something like that. But on the other hand, that if you were to be writing any sorts of cover letter, though, and people may say that talk about for email service and something like that, but really, if it's really a good way of how to talk about your skills, to where if you want to go ahead and include anywhere right here on the bottom or somewhere like that, to where you go ahead and include something about is toward if you would please explain about why. I'm like, about your skills. And let's just say that if I were to put on here to where it, are you capable? So are you capable? And so I guess that's kind of like capable. Are you capable of gaining new between strengths and weaknesses, though, about gaining knowledge. So we can maybe ask that question a lot of times too, about as toward that whenever you first on your first day on a job, that how often are you willing to overcome those challenges, and can you explain that in like 3 paragraphs to where that if somebody's going to be reading your cover letter, that if you can explain it. And like anybody say too, if you're going to be writing a cover letter, a lot of times you just really want to kind of keep it brief to where it includes less than 13 character paragraphs of a character long, and you just want to explain just a little bit about who you are and what is it that you do, and then what position that you're applying for. But it sure seems that way, that every time we think about a job, though, we're not just talking about jobs like driving jobs and maybe working in the shop or something like that, or maybe customer service or cashier jobs. We're talking about a variety, right? And so let's just say that if we got hundreds of different job recruiters, or anybody that's going to be looking over the applications, and want to know too that when do you think that a cover letter is going to be needed. And let's just say that on average, though, that the first thing that you're going to maybe say on this cover letter is that I am only available. Yeah, my name is Matthew McCoy. I am only. Yeah. I am only. So let's just say that if you were to say something like that, I am only available to work part time. And let's just say if you do say that, I'm only available to work part time. What does that mean to a lot of employers? And let's just say if you were to say something like that to a company, and to me though that sounds just a little bit like a rule. And why would you want to do that? And like it sure seems that way that a lot of other employers would say too that if you're going to be if it's occupation or something like that, you would say that maybe over the fact about because you believe that you want to be honest as much as possible, right? But then also that what you actually are trying to do is that you're just trying to get the company to know that you don't have all the full training yet. If you're still in the learning process, and also whenever you do apply for a job, that right now you're just trying out just to make sure that you are the perfect fit for this position. So it's like whenever you do apply for a job, a lot of times that it seems like it's like not 100% certain that do you want to stay with the company for at least a year. And so it sure seems that way, that a lot of job sites are going to be asking that question to where that whenever you do apply for a job, that not only are they going to be asking you, this manager is going to be asking you, if you do have to work weekends, but then also that are you available to work full time? And if that's put on to a request to where to ask you to work full time. And so, well, really, what's the best approach of how to say that? And if you're going to be applying for a job, of course, seems like it's always a good idea to include any portfolio information and resume information. But it sure seems that way that when we think about this right here, if we say only right here, that's kind of like just being a little bit strict. And I had the time you want to know too, if you were to write a cover letter though, and if you say I am only available, I am only available, and let's just say if you were to start out the second paragraph by saying something like that, why would you do that? And we're probably thinking that, really, that number one, that if you're going to be applying for a job, though, that, you actually are trying to let them know that, in order to be able to start somewhere, that you actually you actually meant to say, and I really don't know if that's any source of mistake or just for clarification. And it seems like to me, it's a lot of it has to do with clarification, because if there's going to be a manager that's going to be reading that and want to know too, that you say that on there, and maybe what you meant to say is that you only have maybe 2 years of experience working with doing this skill. So it's like if you were to say only on here on a cover letter, and at 102 that that don't really show any flexibility right there. So let's just say if somebody were to be reading this and 102 that if you say only on there, that are you talking about your experience, or are you talking about that request to where that whenever you apply for a job that you're saying that you are not available to work full time. You want a part time position, or you're only available to do freelancer work or something. And so chances are that if the manager does see that on this cover letter, then it's possible within about 10 days or so, you might get a response saying that we offered a job to somebody else, or thank you for taking interest in this position. And either way, it seems like to me though that do you really have to write a cover letter explaining about what your experience is, and also anything else that you want to talk about? And but it sure seems that way that for the most part, that if you're going to be applying for a job, that you really want to go ahead and talk about, how did you hear about the job, and what's one good reason why employers should be able to hire you, and maybe if they should be able to hire you right off the bat, right? What I mean by off the bat is that they should hire you immediately. And so it sure seems that way, that talk about for available immediately. And so it sure seems that way that, available at available immediately. And so a lot of times it sure seems that way that immediately, people actively, but on the other hand, it sure seems that way that that whenever you're trying to apply for a job, that the things that you really want to say, and want to know too, that if you want to, like, I have right here, or talk about, I am confident in using new software programs. And so it sure seems that way that if I want to include on here that I am confident in going to the meetings, or I am confident in attending the training sessions. So if you were to say something like that, so if you are, if you're pretty confident that your section, that's sections, but the sessions, and some of those training sessions are also known as scenarios. Say scenarios, scenarios. And so whenever we think about that, though, it sure seems that way that that whenever you think about a job opportunity, though, that are you necessarily applying for just that position for you to fill, or are you actually trying to join the team? And a lot of times it sure seems that way that join the club, man, because it's possible that there could be maybe other candidates that are trying to apply for the similar position. So it sure seems that way that when we think about a cover letter, though, that you want to know too, that if we're talking about maybe 40 applications within the weekend or something like that being turned in, and so it's like, it sure seems that way. That number one, being on time. So it sure seems that way that whenever you do apply for a job, on time. I'm trying to say on time here, but so whenever you apply for a job, a lot of times it sure seems that way that if you were told that submit your application before 10 a.m. That following Monday, and let's just say that if you were to try to assume that that's really what you gotta do is submit your application to that employer, by before 10 a.m. that following Monday or something like that, and then that's what you do, is that you go ahead and apply for the position. But it sure seems that way that when we think about a cover letter, though, that do you really have to set a cover letter, explain the details about if you have maybe one or two different contact numbers or something like that, or if anything that if a lot of your skills and experience could not be provided, could not be verified or provided on your resume. And so let's just say that there's a company that's going to look at your resume, and let's just say that maybe not everything was all explained in its entirety on your resume. And so it's like a few things that somebody has a question about. So it sure seems that way, that every time we think about uh, job resume, that you'll want to know too that if you were to list about at least 10 skills on your resume, do you think that that's really good enough for like just to be able to attract a lot of the hiring teams? And I know nowadays it sure seems that way, that even if you have 50 skills altogether, and want to know too that you cannot really list all 50 skills on a resume. And so that's why it sure seems that way, that you go ahead and write a cover letter, just to explain what is it that what you have a desire for. And a lot of times if you're going to write a cover letter, that you're going to maybe put like a request in to where I want to request for this job, and I think that I'm the right fit, or that this is my training experience or something like that. So a lot of times it sure seems that way, that when we think about a job, a lot of times that you want to start out the sentences by saying, hey, this is my this is the main reason why you should hire me. And first of all, it's like you would maybe want to start out the sentence by saying is to where that am I really your only hope just to get the job done? Am I your only hope? And if I am your only hope in getting the job done, and explain the details about, okay, this is what you can get from me, and this is only what you can get from me. You can't get it from anybody else or something like that. So it sure seems that way, that whenever we think about a cover letter, a lot of times that it sure seems that way, that positions, positions to where that this positions is to where that I am your only hope. So let's just say if you were to say something like that, and that I really don't know if that would even be recommended to put on a resume or any sort of cover letter. But let's just say though that if you were to be writing a letter about anything in particular, and let's just say maybe for a promotion or something like that, and everybody else would say too that on a promotion that you would have to give at least 1 or 2 reasons, or maybe 5 reasons to why that company should, if it's a raise in salary, or maybe if it is moving you to the next steps, to where if you've done so well after the first 6 weeks or something like that after you started. And so it sure seems that way, that I am your only hope, and that I request you, or that that I get paid more, or if anything that I deserve a higher. I'm like, that if it's something, anything that, of course, a lot of things are going to become to your mind when we speak about cover letters, though. But when we think about a lot of these cover letters, though, it sure seems that way, that why is it that you see, Mike, that you have to write a cover letter just to explain what your resume is trying to tell the hiring team? And I kept thinking, too, that why is it that you have to think about that, to where that a resume has to be explained clearly before, on a cover letter, just before companies have a better understanding of what is it that you're applying for, and what is it that you're good at. And so that those are my questions right there. And I could probably say that anybody say that just to try to assume that a lot of employers would say that hey, if you're within the area, if you're within about 25 miles from where the business is, and chances are that you might be in contact, and so if there's a job opening, and let's just say if that job opening is going to be within maybe 3 weeks away, then chances are that you will be contacted about that position. But it's like, especially if we're talking about training, especially. So let's just say that if you did not even send an application, period, to a company, and let's just say that the way that they were able to find you, the way this company is able to find you, is that they were able to find your profile. And let's just say if it is a Facebook profile or something like that, and they're able to find your work on even on social media. And I want to know too that do you think that could maybe a legal matter, to where that we never got your application, but we actually are asking you to train one of our clients and our colleagues about something. And so it sure seems that way that, whenever we do, a lot of times it's like, well, really, we got your cover letter, but we just didn't get your application. And so it sure seems that way that every time we think about employment status, though, that it's like, is it really important for somebody to find your work first before you apply? And it seems like that you always kind of like have to ask that question to where that, if it's really a big deal or not, to where if you meet somebody and talk to somebody, and let's just say that if you have an idea that works, or maybe the work that you do that does work, so far as getting the job done, then chances are that it's possible that, somebody's going to say that we never got your application, but, still, we ask you to encourage you to please send that application to us so that way we can verify and go to the next steps. But it sure seems that way that every time I think about cover letter, though, that why is it that I'm always having to keep track of at least 5 different rough drafts, or maybe a cover letter that you were trying to make an in-copy version of, or something like that. So it sure seems that way that you have a whole folder full of different letters and maybe different responses, and you want to know too that why is it that you're always having to remember that one of them could have been pre-edited or paraphrased or something like that, and like to where that you were actually reading this off to a colleague or a client, and you were able to explain to them a little bit more about what is it that you do. And so that's why it sure seems that way that if you're going to be typing up any source of Word document, that you're going to go ahead and call it a cover letter, but you really are trying to call it is that a review letter or something like that. Like anybody said, that's called it's a review letter, to where that you have in writing, you include a few text and maybe a few comments, and on the left and right your angle of the document, and you're going to say that this is a review document about what you talked about. So it's like a lot of stuff that you talked about during the meeting that was not recorded from before. So it's like people might say that you first got this idea just by using a sticky note before you actually opened up the brand new document, and then with that document you went ahead and called that file the cover letter or something like that. And so that's why it sure seems that way that every time you turn around, and it's like you start out the letter by introducing for what you do and for who you are and all that, and it sure seems that way that why is it that you may think that something that starts out with one sheet of paper that's supposed to explain a little bit more simple and clearly about what is it that you do. And a lot of times it's like you may wind up receiving about maybe 5 other copies of something different, such as there's a document for you actually this is a document from the review plan or something like that, or from the agenda or something like that. So it sure seems that way that it all kind of started out by stating to where that while you were typing up this letter that you open, or you decide to share it with somebody. Most of the time that's usually what happens. Whenever you share that document with somebody else, and then that somebody else is going to be asking the questions, and then maybe anything that they're going to want to add, for their feedback especially. And so that's why it sure seems that way that every time we think about a cover letter, though, that why is it that we're talking about maybe reminders, and maybe if we're also talking about anything that's in regards to the upcoming meetings coming up, or the optional appointments. And so it's like between what's required and what's optional. And you're probably thinking too that really, if it was all required, and for sure that when's there going to be a time to where that maybe if one of those agendas is going to be canceled out, and want to know too that you can't be at 2 or 3 different places at the same time. And that's why it sure seems that way that every time you think about that, to where that whenever you do schedule a meeting, and then while you're in that meeting, and let's just say that all kinds of distractions that's going on. But at the time, you want to know too that can a cover letter explain about the fact about if you were distracted on the job, do you really have to explain that right here to where that well, sorry, I got distracted earlier. Yeah, I was looking at my phone, and or something like that, or the skills that I know provide electronic access to the files using the online cloud. And in case of anybody that want to know what I mean, I'm talking about for the online cloud, the storage that the storage account, and if most of us are familiar with like the OneDrive, or maybe the Google Box or something, your Google Dropbox, and so that sorts of thing. But still, on your hand, that we're talking about a cover letter here that it's supposed to explain within 3 or so keywords about that who you are and what you're applying for, and maybe one full sentence about why is it that this company should hire you than compared to hiring the other candidate. And so it sure seems that way that you want to start out the sentence by saying that I am your only hope. You can't find this work anywhere else unless if you hire me. But instead, like if you choose, I'm like, so yeah. So it sure seems that way that between a negative and a positive thinking or anything else that we could probably think about, and you want to know too that you go ahead and write a cover letter, and that cover letter is going to include something like a software program such as InDesign, and talk about for attending the training session. So let's just say that you actually wrote this cover letter saying in just a few brief words that you were in that meeting, and that you're following up about that meeting, and that somebody there that you talked to during the meeting that was able to tell you about what you could do, and about that possibility. And so it sure seems that way that a cover letter is supposed to be it's supposed to be a voice, if you want to kind of call it a voice request, to where explain about who you are and what jobs that you're applying for. But on the other hand, we're talking about that another way of how to express your feeling about if it's going to be tax related, or maybe if it's going to be maybe doctor's excuse related or something like that. But it sure seems that way that why would you want to use how much can you get done in 12 hours, and maybe if I want to include that on there, I'm like, for how much getting done in 12 hours. Why would you want to say that on a cover letter? I'm like, even on the cover letter, right? 12 hours, and no hours. There might be a lot of things that you can get done in 12 days, but still done in 12 hours. Why would you want to put that on a cover letter? And it sure seems that way that that there's a lot of things that I'm sure you can get done in 12 hours, but why do you think that most employers will maybe find that real confident if they see maybe 12 hours than compared to 12 days? And for sure there might be a lot of companies out there they're going to probably say is toward it, if you can name one thing that you can get done in 12 hours, you let me know what it is. And like I say, well, really, that, signing a document, and for sure, I've seen it before, that should only take me a half an hour to do that. And if that's what you want me to do during the whole 12 hours of my shift or something like that, but it sure seems that way that, if you were to be hired for any job at any important reason at all, that a lot of companies would probably say that, if you were to give yourself 1 week, to set any sorts of agendas, the things and the progress that was made, during the time being since you applied for the job, and you want to know too that, how much work are you able to meet any deadlines, and also that the type of training that you have, and with your interactions, and so it's like, so a lot of times it sure seems that way that first of all, it's like, if you say that you set reminders for other candidates or something like that, but But first was like, yeah, I am only available to work, but still. But on the other hand, it's like, it's all about getting the job done, ain't it? But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.